Black waitress rejected for her color, until a billionaire truck driver saw her as his perfect match. Have you ever walked into a place expecting absolutely nothing, but left with a story that stays with you forever? Let me ask you something real. Have you ever seen someone being treated less, just because of the color of their skin? Or felt that strange ache in your chest when you knew something wasn't right, but nobody else said a word? If you've ever experienced that silence, that tension, then this story might hit a part of you you've been trying to forget. Type in the comments where you're watching this from. I want to know. And if you love these kinds of honest, emotional human stories, type 1 in the comments. If it's not your thing, that's okay too. Type 0, so I know how to make something better for you. And hey, before we dive in deep, take a second to subscribe to Mr. Alex Stories, because I promise you, these aren't just stories. These are pieces of life, the quiet kind that sneaks up on you when you're not looking. Now, let me take you back to a moment that started like nothing at all. When I pulled into that little roadside diner just outside Jackson, Mississippi, it was hot. That kind of sticky southern heat that makes your shirt cling to your back and your patience wear thin. The neon sign buzzed over the rusted door. The gravel under my boots crunched as I stepped out of my rig, just thinking about grabbing a quick burger and getting back on the road. It looked like one of those places stuck in time. Wooden booths, old jukebox humming low in the corner, and the smell of frying grease soaked into every inch of the walls. I didn't know it yet, but something in that diner was about to change the way I saw everything. She came over to take my order, Janelle, maybe 25, black, tired eyes. But her smile, man, her smile was the kind that made you feel like the world wasn't all bad. The kind of smile people earn, not just give away. But something felt off. The way the other tables looked at her. Cold, dismissive. Some didn't even say thank you when she refilled their coffee. She didn't flinch though. She just kept moving. Like she'd built armor out of grace. And me? I just sat there, watching it all. My burger untouched. I'd come in for food. But I stayed for something I didn't even have a name for yet. And if you stay with me, you'll understand why. Because what happened in that diner wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, real, human. And once you hear it, I promise, you won't forget her either. So grab your coffee, sit back, and let me tell you what really happened. The next day I came back. Not because the food was anything special. It wasn't. The fries were soggy, and the coffee tasted like burnt hope. But something about that place, or maybe someone in it, pulled me in. My truck was in the shop for a busted radiator, and the mechanic told me it'd take a few days. Normally I'd hole up somewhere, sleep in the cab, maybe grab fast food and kill time. But that diner had Janelle, and she remembered me. "Back again, huh?" she said, not surprised. "I figured you'd swing through," she added, pouring my coffee without asking. 2 sugars, no cream, like she'd known me longer than a single meal. That morning we talked about music. Turns out she loved old school jazz. Coltrane, Ella, Miles. Said the trumpet always made her feel like somebody out there understood her silence. I told her about the road, how the highways feel endless sometimes, and how sleeping in a truck cab makes you dream about things you didn't even know you missed. She listened, not like most people do, not to respond, just to hear. Every day after that I came back, maybe out of habit, maybe out of something else I didn't want to name yet. She'd slide me extra pie when no one was looking, always pecan. Said her grandma used to make it on Sundays. I asked her once, "Why do you still smile when everyone else treats you like you're not even there?" She paused, wiping down the counter with a rag that had seen better days. Then she said, "Because if I stop smiling, they win." That hit me harder than I expected. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She didn't carry herself like a victim or wear bitterness like armor. She was different, kind in a way that wasn't performative, like she was holding the world together with patience. Even when a customer snapped their fingers at her like she was some kind of servant, she didn't flinch. Even when an old man asked if she was legal, she just gave that same tired smile and said, "Would you like a refill, sir?" And slowly, I started realizing I was looking forward to her more than the food, more than the routine. The way her eyes lit up when I mentioned my favorite jazz station. The way she leaned in just a little when I spoke, like my words mattered, like I mattered. And it wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was something softer, slower, something that built itself quietly in the way she'd say, "Be safe out there," like she meant it. Or the way she'd glance over to my booth when the bell above the door rang, just to see if it was me. There was a kind of comfort in it, like we were two people just passing through a lonely world. But somehow, we kept finding the same small corner of it. I didn't know what to call what we had, but I knew I didn't want to leave it behind. Not yet. And I think maybe she didn't either. It was a Tuesday evening when it all shifted. Subtle, but enough that I felt it in my chest like a low hum that wouldn't quiet down. The diner was quieter than usual. A few regulars sat scattered in their booths, half listening to the old country tunes drifting out of the jukebox. Rain tapped soft against the windows, and the sky outside had that heavy gray stillness that makes everything feel slower, more intimate. Janelle brought over my plate, grilled cheese and tomato soup this time, and instead of rushing off like she always did, she paused. Then, with a small sigh, she slid into the booth across from me, her apron still on, a tired crease between her brows that even her smile couldn't smooth out. "It's my break," she said quietly, like she was asking for permission but didn't need it. I nodded, pretending to stay casual. But something inside me shifted. She sat with her elbows resting on the table, hands cupped around a chipped coffee mug, steam curling between us. I don't even remember what we talked about. Something small, forgettable. But I remember how we talked. Slower, softer. No rush to fill the silence. At one point, her hand grazed mine, barely, just the brush of her pinky against the side of my fingers. Neither of us moved. It could have been an accident, a nothing moment, but it didn't feel like nothing. That night, as I walked out to my rig, I caught her reflection in the window, watching me. Just standing by the register, arms crossed, half hidden behind the counter. And there was something in her eyes. Was it longing? Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? I got in my truck, closed the door, but I didn't start the engine for a while. I just sat there staring at the rain as it streaked across the windshield. And the question started digging into me. Why do I keep showing up here? It's just a diner, right? Just a waitress, just a routine. Except, it wasn't. She was young. Too young for me, if I'm being honest. 20-something, maybe. And me? I was already past 50, skin weathered by time and highways. White, grizzled, rich from the investments I rarely talked about. But I drove trucks by choice, not need. I liked the simplicity, the silence, the way the road gave you time to think. She didn't know any of that. To her, I was just a trucker who liked jazz and pecan pie. And still, she looked at me like I wasn't invisible. And her? There was something about the way she carried herself. Graceful, but guarded. Like she'd learned the hard way not to trust ease. Like every smile came with effort. And yet, she gave it anyway. She had this quiet calm, but I could feel there was something beneath it. A sadness, maybe, or just exhaustion. I never asked. Didn't want to push. But I noticed. I started catching myself watching her when she wasn't looking. The way she tucked a loose braid behind her ear. The way she laughed. Not loud, but full, like it surprised even her. And I'd catch her eyes drifting to my booth before I even opened the door. We never said anything, not out loud. But something was blooming in the silence. And I didn't know what to do with it. It was probably nothing. But I felt something I couldn't explain. That night, everything felt different. The sky had been brooding all afternoon. Low clouds, thick with warning. And by the time I pulled into the diner's gravel lot, the storm had already started rolling in. You could feel it before it arrived. That strange stillness in the air, like the world was holding its breath. Inside the diner, the lights flickered once, then twice. The hum of conversation was softer than usual. Fewer customers. And Janelle. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She gave me a tired smile when I came in, but it didn't reach her eyes. I took my usual booth. She brought me coffee. But something was off. I watched from across the room as a couple at one of the corner tables waved her away, not with words, just a dismissive gesture, like she wasn't worth speaking to. She stood still for half a second, just long enough for me to see her face drop, then turned around and disappeared into the kitchen. She didn't come back out for a while. When she did, she moved slower, kept her head down, didn't meet anyone's eyes. I didn't say anything. But when she walked past me again, I said quietly, "Don't rush. Sit for a bit." She hesitated, looked around. The place was nearly empty now. The storm had chased most of the customers away, and slowly, she slid into the booth across from me. Again. But this time, it wasn't casual. This time, it felt like we were hiding from something. The rain hit the windows in soft waves and the power dipped again, low enough to make the overhead lights flicker out for a second. She lit one of the backup candles on the counter. It was a tiny thing, just a stub in a glass jar, but the way the flame danced across her face, it felt like I was seeing her for the first time. Or maybe, finally noticing what I'd been looking at all along. We didn't talk at first. We just sat there, sharing a quiet coffee, watching shadows stretch across the linoleum. I didn't want to break the silence. But she did. In a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "People only see one part of me, the part they think doesn't belong." Her eyes stayed fixed on the candle, like if she looked at me, she'd fall apart. They see a black girl in a small southern diner and think I'm either trouble or furniture, never just a person. I didn't know what to say. Nothing felt like enough. So I didn't speak. I just reached. My hand moved toward hers on the table. Not fast, not deliberate, just honest. And when our fingers touched, she didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. The moment held. Heavy, charged, honest. There were no words, just the storm outside and the ache inside both of us. It wasn't romance, not yet, but it was something deeper than comfort, something raw and real, and not entirely safe. That candle between us flickered, like it knew what we weren't ready to admit. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a man passing through. I felt seen. And she looked like she didn't want to be invisible anymore. I didn't go back for 2 days. Drove right past that little diner on Highway 90 both mornings. Hands tight around the wheel. Stomach in knots. I told myself it was nothing, that I just needed to keep moving, that I was busy. But the truth was uglier, quieter. I wasn't busy, I was scared. I kept hearing her voice in my head. People only see one part of me. The way she said it, like it had been sitting inside her chest for years, waiting for someone to hear it. And the way she looked at me afterward, like she didn't regret saying it, but maybe she wished I hadn't been the one to hear it. And our hands, that quiet, trembling contact across the booth, it haunted me. I told myself I was just being kind, just eating, just talking. But deep down, I knew something else was growing, and I didn't know if I had the right. I'd buried a lot of feelings in my life. You don't get to my age without learning how. But this one, it refused to stay buried. It stayed with me on the road, in the rearview mirror, in every empty mile I drove. When I finally pulled back into that gravel lot, 2 mornings later, my boots felt heavier than usual as I walked up the steps. The bell over the door jingled just like always, but the warmth I usually felt when I stepped inside, gone. She was wiping down the counter. She turned when she heard the bell. Her smile came automatically, like clockwork, but it wasn't real. Not this time. Her eyes said everything. "Why did you disappear?" I slid into my booth. She came over with coffee, no words for a moment. Then she asked softly, casual as she could manage, "You all right?" I forced a nod. Just busy. A lie, and we both knew it. She stared at the coffee pot for a second longer than she had to, then finally said, "You've been quiet lately." There was a pause, and then, "Did I say something wrong?" I looked up at her, and for the first time since I met her, I didn't know how to answer her. It wasn't her, it wasn't anything she did. If anything, it was me. My thoughts, my fears, my own damn heart trying to make sense of something it had no business wanting. But how do you say that? How do you say, "No, you didn't say anything wrong. I just don't know how to be around you without wanting to protect you, and hold you, and kiss you. You don't. So I didn't say anything. I just looked down at my coffee, steam rising between us like the space I was trying to build, even though I didn't really want it there. She stood there for a second, then gave that same forced smile. "Okay," she whispered, and she walked away. And I hated myself for letting her. The rain came back hard that night, thick sheets pounding the roof like it was trying to shake something loose. The diner was empty by 7. The regulars didn't bother coming in when the skies looked angry, and for once she decided not to wait around for walk-ins. "I'm closing early," she said softly, pulling the blinds down one by one, her movement slow, almost hesitant. "Storm's not letting up." I stood there by the counter, holding my empty coffee mug like I didn't know what to do with my hands. Then she looked at me, eyes soft, tired but searching. And I heard myself ask before I could stop it, "You want help locking up?" She nodded. Didn't say much, just handed me the mop and flipped the last switch on the neon sign. The lights went out with a quiet click. No hum of electricity, no country music, just the rain outside and one small candle flickering on the corner table. That table, ours. She sat first, wrapping her hands around a chipped ceramic mug. No coffee this time, just warmth. I sat across from her, and for a few moments, neither of us spoke. She broke the silence first, her voice low, barely above a whisper. "I never thought someone like you would even notice someone like me." I felt my chest tighten. That wasn't some flirtation, that wasn't playful. That was raw, vulnerable. She wasn't fishing for compliments, she was bleeding truth. And all I could do was stare at the flame between us, trying to find the words I'd been choking on for days. When I finally spoke, my voice cracked like an old floorboard. "I think about you more than I should." She looked up. Her lip trembled just a little. But she didn't cry. She just nodded, like she already knew. Like maybe she'd been thinking the same thing. "You made me feel seen," she said. Not just looked at, seen. That word hit hard. I don't think people realize how rare that is, and to be seen. Most folks spend their whole lives trying to be heard, trying to matter, but she said it so plain, so quiet, like it scared her to admit it. And I was overwhelmed, not by her words, but by how badly I wanted to give her something she maybe never had. Safety, softness, a place to rest. I wasn't sure if it was love or guilt or something even messier, but it was real. It was heavy. We didn't touch. We didn't move. Just sat there, breathing in the silence, letting it stretch out between us like a bridge we were both too afraid to walk. Then, finally, I said it. Not because I wanted to end the moment, but because it was the only truth I had left. "But we can't. Can we?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her eyes dropped to the flame. And in that silence, the kind that wraps around your ribs and holds tight, I heard everything I needed to know. No promises, no future, just this. And even that might have been too much. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but something still felt heavy in the air, like the clouds had left a piece of themselves behind. I woke up before sunrise, sat on the edge of that stiff motel bed for a long time, staring at the duffel bag by the door. I'd packed it the night before, knowing what I had to do. But my hands didn't want to touch it. My truck was fixed, humming like new. It should have felt like freedom, like getting back to the road, the rhythm, the quiet I used to crave. But all I felt was the weight of something unfinished. I didn't go to the diner, not to eat, not to talk, not to see her. I just walked up to the door before open hours, slipped an envelope between the frame and the glass, and stood there for a moment with my hand resting on the handle. Inside that envelope, I'd folded two things, a note and a notebook. The note was short, honest, no fluff, no poetry. "Janelle, you gave me something I didn't know I needed, a reason to feel again, a mirror I didn't know I was looking for. But if I stayed, I don't know if I'd do the right thing. And you deserve the right thing. Thank you for your light. M." And with it, that old black notebook I kept stuffed in the glove compartment. She once asked if I wrote things on the road. I shrugged and said, sometimes. Truth is, I'd filled pages, poems, thoughts, confessions I'd never said out loud. She was in most of them. When I pulled out of the motel lot, I kept my eyes forward. No music, no GPS. Just the hum of tires and a voice in my chest telling me I was doing the right thing, even if it didn't feel like it. I passed the diner one last time, and there she was, Janelle, standing in the rain, barefoot on the sidewalk like she'd run out in a hurry, the envelope in one hand, the notebook clutched to her chest like it was made of glass. Her eyes found me through the windshield, and for a second, the whole world slowed down. She didn't wave, didn't yell, didn't cry. She just looked at me, like she wanted to remember every line of my face, and I looked back, feeling everything I couldn't say. I didn't stop. She didn't chase. We just saw each other. One last time. Two people who met in a moment they were never meant to keep. I drove until the rain behind me faded into sunlight, and I told myself, again and again, that walking away wasn't weakness. It was love, the hard kind, the kind that doesn't get the storybook ending, but leaves a page dog-eared in your soul forever. It had been 3 weeks, 3 long, winding weeks of white lines on blacktop, truck stop showers, stale coffee, and silence. I thought the road would clear my head, that the distance would make it easier to forget, but some miles don't take you further. They just stretch the ache wider. I was parked at a quiet little truck stop just outside Amarillo. It was late, almost midnight. Most rigs around me had gone dark, just a few idling engines and the glow of vending machines humming inside. I was lying on the bunk in the back of my cab, staring at the ceiling like it might offer me some kind of answer. And then, the screen lit up. One message, unknown number. I sat up slowly, thumb hovering for a second longer than I should have. Then I opened it. I read every poem. You weren't alone in what you felt. That was it. No name, no emojis, no punctuation beyond what was needed. No, I miss you. No, let's meet. Just truth. Raw and careful, like it had taken her weeks to gather the strength to send it. I stared at that screen for what felt like an hour. My thumb brushed the keyboard once, twice, but I didn't type anything. What could I say? That I still hear her laugh when I pass a diner? That I can't order coffee without thinking of the way her hands held that chipped mug? Instead, I just set the phone down, face down, on the dash, closed my eyes, and breathed, not a breath of regret, but one of knowing, of carrying something quietly beautiful that could never be broken, because we never let it fully form. We protected it by walking away. And in that silence, in that stillness inside my cab, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Peace. Not because it didn't hurt, but because maybe for once, I'd loved someone enough not to take them with me. I just let her be, and she let me go. Some people come into your life like a soft storm. You don't hear them coming, you don't prepare, and by the time they've passed through, the ground beneath you is never quite the same. That's what she was. Not chaos, not temptation, but something gentler, something that asked questions I didn't know I still carried. Like, was it wrong to feel something real in a world that rarely allows it? To see someone across a chipped countertop, feel their pain, their grace, their quiet strength, and wish you'd met in a life that made more sense? Was it guilt I felt, or grief for something I never really had the right to want? Maybe it was both, because that's what love sometimes is. Not fireworks or declarations, but the ache you feel in your chest when someone says your name like it matters, and you know it can't go further than that. I never touched her, not in the way most people would mean. But I carried her in places no one else could see, in the poems scribbled on the back of gas receipts, in the smell of black coffee on rainy nights, in the silence between old country songs playing on a cracked truck radio. She reminded me that connection doesn't always come dressed in logic or timing. Sometimes it's just two lonely souls brushing up against each other, long enough to remember they're still alive. So, no, not every story ends with a kiss. Some end with a question, a look, a message read in the dark that makes your chest tighten for reasons you can't explain. And sometimes, that's enough. Because the truth is, the most human parts of us are the ones we try hardest to hide. The longings, the doubts, the moments that don't make sense but feel like home. And if you've ever felt that, if you've ever stood at the edge of something you couldn't name, but couldn't walk away from without leaving part of yourself behind, then maybe you understand. If this story made you feel something, conflicted, warm, uncertain, don't keep it to yourself. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear them, even if they challenge what I just said. And if you want more stories like this, ones that explore the gray spaces between right and wrong, between heart and mind, hit that subscribe button. This is Mr. Alex Stories, and here, we don't tell perfect stories, we tell real ones.